Welcome back to HQ. We pivot to the NFL, where the Saints are putting the new in New Orleans in 2025. New head coach Kellen Moore making his head coaching debut, and a new starting quarterback after Derek Carr announced his retirement earlier this year. That new bombshell to hit the Villa, first-round draft pick Tyler Shough. He's the first-rounder quarterback that the Saints have taken since Archie Manning back in 1971. But Shough is backing himself with his experience and is embracing the opportunity ahead in New Orleans. He spoke a little bit about why he's backing himself on the St. Brown podcast earlier this week.
You know, I've been carted off the field. I've been booed. I've been an MVP. Yeah. I've been a starter. I've been a backup to Herbert. I'm like, dude, I don't. Like, throw some shit at me. Like, you're not going to phase me if we start off like 0-2 or I suck. I'm like, dude, it's going to be fine, you know? So that's why I was so excited about that opportunity, or any opportunity. And I think going into it, you know, I got to continue to get to know the guys. We were talking about this earlier. I'm still a rookie. You know, I may be older, but I got to earn the respect of everybody and do my job, so.
Let's see if it phases our NFL crew as we welcome in Ryan Wilson, host of the With the First Pick podcast, and our NFL analyst, Tyler Sullivan. Guys, you love to see the quarterback exude that confidence. It's what you want to see, but it seems like that room maybe needs a little bit more than confidence when you look at the quarterback room as a whole. Ryan, when we talk about Tyler Shough, this is a guy who has a lot of experience at the collegiate level, and he's competing, like I mentioned, with, you know, your darling from 2025 and Spencer Rattler, among other names. What's the pressure Tyler Shough is facing when he talks about, you know, I'm not being phased, like we heard just now from him?
Hey, Holly. Hey, Sully. Hey, Haley. Good to see you guys. Just making up names here. I'm having an old person moment like Tyler Shough is. Here's the thing with Tyler Shough. He's not wrong, and I think you can learn from that experience, because sometimes we see young quarterbacks like Anthony Richardson, for example, come out perhaps too early. He played double-digit games just barely at Florida before going to Indianapolis, and we have a ton of questions about that experience. Tyler Shough does not lack experience. He started at Oregon. He talked about backing up Justin Herbert. Was at Texas Tech, where he experienced a ton of injuries, and started last year at Louisville, and he parlayed that into the 40th overall pick. He said he's not going to blink if they start 0-2. We're going to talk about their schedules in a moment. They might be starting 0-4, so we'll see about that in real time. The other thing to keep in mind, Kellen Moore has a fantastic track record with young quarterbacks, so I think that's in Tyler Shough's best interest. That's in Spencer Rattler's best interest. And the other thing I'll mention is that there haven't been a ton of quarterbacks drafted in the first 3 rounds who were that age, 25 plus. And if you look at guys that turned 24 during their rookie seasons as first or second or third round picks, their collective record is 8-17. So the expectations aren't through the roof in terms of what history tells us, but I think he's in a good situation with Kellen Moore, in a good situation in that division, but they're going to face some long odds regardless who the quarterback is because of their roster.
Yeah, we're talking about turning 24. This guy's going to be turning 26 during the first month of his rookie season. By the way, that birthday is at Buffalo, so good luck to Tyler Shough. But what he needs to do in his rookie season, to me, is come somewhere close to what we saw last year with Bo Nix. Now, Bo Nix had the availability of a top 5 defense and Sean Payton in his ear, so a little bit of a better inside track for a successful rookie season. But if he can keep that quarterback rating, that passer rating in the low 90s, keep a high completion rate, that's going to keep this Saints team afloat. But again, you're asking a lot for a first-time head coach, a rookie quarterback in the second round, and a roster that doesn't really inspire too much. Again, it's an easier division than most, but overall, this is a tough road for Tyler Shough and the Saints.
Yeah, I'm just laughing at being 26. Like, you guys always make fun of me for being young here. Like, now I feel like the old person in the room, being older than all these quarterbacks, but I digress here. It doesn't matter, guys, how confident, you know, your quarterback is if he doesn't have anyone to throw to, and that's also a concern out in New Orleans. There's been a lot of eyes on Chris Olave's health this season. He missed 9 games last year because of injury. Tyler, how much of the success of Kellen Moore's offense is hinging on Olave being healthy and available?
Well, Shough needs someone to throw to, right? I mean, you know, I do like them bringing back Juwan Jennings in free agency. They have Alvin Kamara out of the backfield. But what's going to make this offense hum is if he has a true #1 wide receiver. And when Chris Olave's healthy, he's just that, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons to begin his career. Of course, he's dealing with those concussion problems, 3 or 4 in the last 3 years. So kind of similar to what we talk about with Tua Tagovailoa, the availability is going to be the big question for him, and are you going to be able to depend on him throughout a 17-game schedule? And even beyond that, if the New Orleans Saints are going to be as bad as some of us think that they're going to be, there's not a guarantee that Chris Olave is on this roster by the end of the season. He's someone who signed through 2026 on the 5th-year option, but he's someone that I think, if healthy, is very intriguing at the trade deadline for some of these playoff contenders. So as much as we say he hinges on the success of the offense in Shough's rookie season, I have my questions if he's going to be there in Week 17.
All right, we've just been teasing how good we think the Saints are going to be next year. So let's get to it. Let's get to that schedule prediction, because we saw them get out to a hot start in 2024, and then things went south fast. They opened this season playing 4 of their first 6 at home, which is good. But it's a schedule, guys, that includes 3 playoff opponents from a year ago. They finished 5-12 last year. Ryan, how do they do in 2025?
They're going to get a little better, Haley. They're going to win 6 games this time around. And if you look at the schedule, I had them going 6-11. You look at the schedule there, those first 4 games, 4 losses. As Sully mentioned, that Week 4 game is Tyler Shough's birthday, and you get to go to Buffalo and face Josh Allen. I do have them winning the Giants and the Patriots in back-to-back weeks. But of all the teams I have them beating, none of those teams had winning records last year. The closest were the Falcons and the Dolphins. And those, you have to sort of squint to see those games as wins. I do have the Panthers sweeping them. We talked about Carolina yesterday, and I'm riding the Bryce Young train, either down the road or off the cliff. We'll find out together. But I think, as Sully sort of alluded to, there's a lot of room for improvement with this roster, and they're with a first-year head coach, a young head coach, and an unsettled quarterback situation. So 1 win improvement from a year ago. And by the way, this team hasn't been to the playoffs since 2020, when Drew Brees and Sean Payton were there. You mentioned Bo Nix. So it's been a minute since they found their way to postseason football.
Look at Wilson being the Friday optimist over here with the New Orleans Saints. I am not the optimist for this team. I have them going 3-14, number 1 overall pick. This is kind of the road they're going down. I struggled to find wins on this roster. I'm with you, Wilson, in that Week 5 game against the New York Giants. That's going to be a win. I think they can split with the Carolina Panthers, winning their game at home. Possibly take down the Tennessee Titans if Cam Ward isn't that number 1 overall pick. You can maybe even talk me into that Week 18 game against the Atlanta Falcons if they're resting starters. We don't know what their season's going to look like. But overall, I don't think that this is going to be a competitive football team. Like you just said, we've just talked about it. Questions at quarterback, a first-time NFL head coach in Kellen Moore. I just don't know where they can grind out multiple wins or winning streaks in this schedule. You talked about that first month, but even if you kind of pick through it, it's difficult. I like them last place in the NFC South. I like them under their win total. This team not going to be very good. They're rebuilding.
Yeah, and Vegas agrees with you, Tyler. You see the odds there. Saints sitting at the second shortest at plus 425. Ryan, it does bring up an interesting conversation, though, because you have Arch Manning going number 1 in your latest mock draft for next year. We know the connections that the Manning family has with the Saints. Producer Noah, by the way, also pointed out that Garrett Nussmeier, his dad, is now currently the offensive coordinator in New Orleans as well. So it seems like there's maybe a game plan already in place here. You just heard Tyler say he thinks the Saints are going to get a number 1 pick next year. What are you thinking about when it comes to these built-in connections already with who could be the quarterback potentially next year if Shough does phase out?
Yeah, and let's say Shough actually doesn't play poorly. He's still the 40th overall pick, and when someone like Arch Manning comes walking through the door and says, hey, I'm available if you need me, assuming he comes out and we can have that conversation a month from now, you're taking him. Like, you're not even thinking twice about it. Will Levis was the first pick in the second round a few years ago. He is now the backup to Cam Ward, perhaps before he gets released or traded in training camp. So there's no ties to Tyler Shough unless he comes out and plays like Joe Burrow, and I don't think that's going to happen. I could be wrong, but as Sully noted, and as we've sort of talked about for days now, weeks even, the Saints team's not very good, and they're going to be potentially picking 1, 2, or 3 in this quarterback class. A little preview, guys. It's going to be a lot deeper than last year's quarterback class. So we could see 3 or 4 or 5 quarterbacks go in the first round. And again, Arch Manning, Garrett Nussmeier, those are going to be names to watch early in the fall, especially when you're talking about the New Orleans Saints, given those ties that you talked about, Haley.
Yeah, rude awakening for sure in New Orleans right now. Tyler mentioned it's a Buffalo birthday for Tyler Shough. It's an HQ birthday for our Ryan Wilson. Come on, Ryan. You didn't think you were going to get out of this by not having us celebrate your birthday today. Happy birthday. How do you feel? Another year older.
Another year older indeed. I got a kid going to college in a few months, so it's setting in. I talked to our buddy Rand Carthon today. He asked me, am I one of those guys that thinks age is a number? I do think age is a number, because otherwise I'd be walking around with a cane and perhaps even a wheelchair. So I got to keep moving. I appreciate the acknowledgement, Producer Boney. Thank you, Haley. And Tyler, this is your future, buddy.
You look a day over 20. I'll tell you guys a quick story. The first time I met Ryan Wilson in person, I did not know his actual age. I thought Ryan was like 30, like the rest of us. So happy birthday to Ryan. Catch him on With the First Pick podcast.